Hello children, story time again, and this week we're going to read The Tooth Fairy's Royal Visit. And can you see the picture of the crown on the front? And who wears a crown like this, do you know? It's the Queen of England, and she lives in London in a palace called Buckingham Palace. So, are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. The Tooth Fairy woke from her afternoon nap when Robin arrived in a bit of a flap. "What is it?" the Tooth Fairy said with a frown. Then she saw the gold envelope bearing a crown. She opened the letter and giggled with glee. "Oh, it's a trip to the palace for me." Let's see what the letter says. "Dear Tooth Fairy, Her Majesty the Queen is pleased to inform you that her royal great-grandson has lost his first tooth. You will find it under his pillow tonight. Yours sincerely, the Queen, kiss, kiss." The prince had lost his very first tooth today. "As soon as it's night time, I'll be on my way." So she flew all the way to Buckingham Palace. That night at the palace, the lights were all out. "Good," thought the Tooth Fairy, "no one's about." She flew over the railings, but got a big fright when flash, she set off the security light. Dazzled and blinking, she shot through the yard and flew with a wallop straight into a guard. Can you see? That's his hat, and his eyes are looking very surprised underneath. "Yikes," he declared as she bounced off his hat. "Whatever was that? A small owl or a bat?" The Tooth Fairy whizzed round the palace and sighed. There was no way to enter as hard as she tried. And then a door opened. She dashed for the gap as three little corgis ran out. Yap, yap, yap. They snapped at her heels and knocked over a bin with a clatter and crash. What a terrible din! As one of the maids shooed the pooches inside, the Tooth Fairy zipped through the door open wide. The maid cried, "Oh, bother, I've let in a moth," and she gave the poor fairy a flick with her cloth. The fairy fell on some knickers marked Her Majesty the Queen and nearly got put in the washing machine. The Tooth Fairy fled through a splendid great hall where cleaners were clearing up after a ball. "This palace is huge," she declared. "Goodness me, now where on earth can the little prince be?" She flew here, she flew there. Then she saw from afar light from a door that was slightly ajar. "Aha," said the fairy. She peeped round the door and saw an old lady crouched down on the floor. "I can't find my dentures," the old lady frowned. "Where have I put them? I've looked all around." The Tooth Fairy smiled. "Let me try a quick spell. I find that it normally works very well. Oh dentures, oh where can you be? Come to me, fiddle-dee-fee." A pillow rose up, and there, underneath, clacking away, was a set of false teeth. The lady said, "Thank you," and popped her teeth back. "Now would you care for a small bedtime snack?" But the fairy said, "Sorry, I'm all in a tiz. I need to find out where the little prince is." "The prince?" smiled the lady. Why didn't you say? Come, little fairy, he's not far away. The tooth was soon found, a coin left in its place, and the tooth fairy saw a familiar face. It's the Queen's face on the coin. Thank you, dear fairy, the old lady said. Now please let me help you get home to your bed. The tooth fairy gave a great gasp of delight when she saw what was taking her homewards that night. A fine gold carriage, the grandest she'd seen. Good night, said the fairy. Good night, said the Queen. So it was the Queen all along who was the old lady looking for her false teeth. I hope you enjoyed that story. I think it's lovely. See you next week.